Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. I'm John Marino, and we are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through the spring of 2021. Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. And White Plains Hospital, special thanks to our heroes at White Plains Hospital for all they've done throughout the pandemic that began in 2020. The early part of the year brings us to our sports report for today. And one of the early victims of the pandemic was the Glenn D. Loucks annual track and field games at White Plains High School, the annual Glenn D. Loucks Memorial High School track and field games at White Plains High. This year, the games are on in a limited fashion. The treasurer of the Glenn D. Loucks Executive Committee is Dana Comfort, well known around Westchester, his family for decades. Dana, we welcome you to Westchester Talk Radio. We are not talking on site at the games like we did a couple of times a few years back. Different venue here gives us a chance to talk a little more about what you do as the treasurer of the Glenn D. Loucks Executive Committee, too. First of all, Dana, how did you get involved in the Loucks games? You have a business background. Do you have an athletic background, too?
I did sports all growing up and a great part of my life. Yeah, I did basketball, hockey, baseball, football, track, little hockey in there. And so I've always appreciated the sports. And I moved to White Plains in 1980 when my boys were 4 and 2 years old. And they went all through the White Plains school. They got a great education. One was a tennis player, one was a swimmer. And I saw a lot of games in White Plains.
Mm-hmm. Now, you grew up in Harrison, correct?
No, I actually grew up in Briarcliff, New York, a little further up county. And then after college, I was out in Portland, Oregon for 10 years. And then I got a chance to join my family business 1980, so a long time ago.
What does the family business do?
We are a commercial real estate company, started in 1919. George Comfort and Sons, so family business. It's virtually all office space now, but we were in shopping centers and a couple of residential projects. But generally speaking, about 12 million square feet of office space that we managed and invested in as well.
You have a Harrison connection, though, correct?
No, it's just that we moved here when I retired about 7 years ago. We needed a one-story house. I'm old and, don't want to walk upstairs so much. But I'm really a White Plains guy through and through. Mm-hmm. My kids got a great education there. And I've always been, loyal to White Plains. And that's kind of what brought me back to the Loucks games.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in the Loucks games? How many years back now? 7, 8 years, maybe?
Yes, 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. So I was looking at retirement. I'm actually 74 years old. So I retired about 7 years ago and I was looking for something to do. And I wanted to do something in White Plains. So I was thinking about, could I teach kids Excel spreadsheets? So I tried to look at high school. Nobody did that at the high school. And then one of my old friends, the coach of the swim team, Patty Gilmartin, mm-hmm. said that Fred was Singleton, the beat director, was looking for some help. So I got in touch with Fred and he said, sure, come on down. And I've been involved ever since. Fred is a dream to work with. So I helped him raise some money. And then I replaced John McCarthy, who had been doing the books for Loucks for like 37 years. So it was time for a change and I was available. So this is really my first volunteer work since I retired, and it's been a great experience, I tell you. Really
Guys
terrific.
Like you never really retire, though, right? That's just a word.
Right. Yeah, well, I have a very good relationship with my old business, and I'm still invested in about a dozen of their properties. but they do all the work now.
You're a consultant of sorts.
Right.
Right?
I'm doing fine, but the business is very well run. So
you're the overseer, just in case anybody needs a little guidance. You're the guy to go to, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Comfort is the treasurer of the Glenn D. Loucks Executive Committee over at White Plains High School. The games are on this year, the 53rd annual, after a pause for the pandemic in 2020, as pretty much the world paused over the course of the past 13, 14 months now. Dana, you mentioned you raised some money the last few years. That's another term you use judiciously. I've heard you've raised a darn good amount of cash for the Loucks Committee.
Well, I started giving to the Loucks games just because John McCarthy, who's been very active in it so long, probably almost 20 years, I would give him some money every year just because I thought, what a great event to have in White Plains. I mean,
so you were a contributor first, correct?
Yes, yeah. That was my, John McCarthy reached out to me, and so I started giving some money, and I just thought it's such a great event and something that kind of honors White Plains, or really significant Northeast event. Athletes from 10 or 12 different states and Providence in Canada, and I thought, wow, what a great thing for White Plains. So that's how I first got started.
Mm-hmm. Now, the money you've raised through the years obviously goes for all the operating costs of the Loucks Committee. I'm wearing a shirt here. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Which is 50. It's kind of hard to do. Maybe I'll stand up and it'll show. Let's see. Here we go.
Okay, let's take a look. Oh, yeah, there.
Loucks Games, 52nd Loucks Games, which was a couple of years ago, obviously, in 2019. As it turned out. So I have a Loucks shirt on here in support of the Loucks Games and the Loucks Committee. The money you've raised, who do you raise it from?
Who do I raise it from? Well, the Loucks Games cost about $80,000 a year to run. And so in the last...
Go back and repeat that amount one more time.
$80,000 per year to run.
That's like running a business.
Yes, and Fred Singleton it really does a lot of the hard work and the heavy lifting to do that, and then all the rest of there are about 25 of us volunteers who pitch in to get all the work done. No paid employees or anything like that. All the officials are volunteer, so it's a big volunteer effort to do this. But we need some cash to run the games. Probably the biggest single expense, we spend about $25,000 a year on the awards. There's some beautiful awards, especially if you win your event, but it's pretty prestigious if you can place first in your event at the Loucks Games. It means you're probably a national caliber track or field athlete. So
this is one of the most prestigious events in the country at the high school level. And if you score well at Loucks, this could be the difference maker for you, make or break whether or not you get a college scholarship, because every track program collegiately in America looks at Loucks. And if you're out at Loucks and you compete at Loucks, how did you do at Loucks? I think this is a real key event also, too, for high school athletes who are looking to make their mark collegiately, too.
Yeah, it's a great experience. And I see the kids who are up on that award stand, and I think they're pretty proud of themselves. It's really something. So back to the donations, we raised about $30,000 in the past few years to help do the event. And some of our sponsors have been, this year has been Hospital for Special Surgery, White Plains Hospital, my old company, George Comfort and Sons. That's, and a few others that have supported. And we have many former participants who still contribute, even though they're not here anymore. And we get some donations from across the country. And there are a few people who remember who Glenn D. Loucks was and who went to White Plains High School you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago that still make a contribution. Mm-hmm. So we have about, I would say, 80 or 90 donors each year to raise that $30,000. So
mm-hmm. How are you able to raise that kind of money in a pandemic where cash is short? What do you say? How do you go about it? For anybody raising funds for a nonprofit organization, how would you direct them? How would you coach them to go about with their ask?
Well, you got to pick a target and ask. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. You know, Nothing comes if you don't ask, correct?
Right. You got to make the ask every year. So, you know, we had picked out some people and we sent out, you know, a number, and like the White Plains Hospital and the Hospital for Special Surgery, they're new sponsors. But this, I think, fits them very well. This is in their community. And so, you know, they've responded to an appeal, you know, basically a blind appeal that we made to them. You know, we sent them an appeal, some photos of some of the great athletes that have participated. And they said, yeah, that's our number this year. So it changes from time to time. I think they've had some sneaker sponsors and stuff like that.
And others too, insurance in years back to MBIA for a long time. We had at the Loucks committee.
Yeah.
Also,
and I should also mention that the Rotary Club of White Plains has been supporting this for many, many years.
And the Chamber of Commerce too in White Plains.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So give a lot of credit to the Rotary Club. They've gone out there and raised money. And then generally on Friday nights, not this year, but generally on Friday nights, we feed about 900 people up in the cafeteria in White Plains High School. And it's the Rotary Club that does all the service for those 900 people that gather after the meet on Friday night. So my hats off to those guys. I've
been at those events, and I learned early on, get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Let the event happen, basically. We talk about the competition. We talk about the coaches and their approach to what the Loucks games are. Talk about the legacy, if you would, of the Loucks family in White Plains. You said that if you weren't part of the White Plains community and family, you might not know much about Glenn D. Loucks or, for example, Dean Loucks, both Westchester Sports Hall of Famers. This was a legendary family in just about every sport at White Plains.
And Barbara Loucks makes a big contribution and gets a match from her old employer at Macy's every year. So that's been great. Kathy Loucks, which I think is her daughter, is still involved. So it's been great.
She's a committee member too, correct, Kathy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, so it's been great to have them participate. It's just such a good legacy that they're well remembered 50 years after all of this started.
You talk about Dean Loucks and Glenn Loucks and the young men and women who were at White Plains High when they were there, who learned under them, whether it be academically, whether it be athletically on the field, especially athletically in the stories you hear about through the years and through the decades. They just ring with you and stay with you forever, these stories. And you hear about how Coach Loucks would make sure his players were home on a Friday night before a Saturday football game. And if he had to go find you, he'd go and find you to make sure that you were home. You had a White Plains football team in the early 1950s headed up by the legendary Harry Jefferson that went 4 years undefeated. And I thought about that a few days ago. How could you not lose one game in 4 years? But they didn't lose a game in 4 years in the early 1950s. That's a testament to the coaching, to the program, to the school, to the community. And that's what this is about all these decades later. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, it's great. Since I moved to Harrison, I met the mayor here in Harrison, Ron
Belmont.
Right. And
my good friend.
I was involved. He said, yeah, I threw the shot put at Loucks. You remember how many years ago?
Yeah, very big athletic family in White Plains, too. Ron
Yeah.
Belmont and his brother Mike Belmont, who went over to Harrison, was a legendary coach at Harrison. Mike Belmont,
Yeah. Oh, really?
and
I didn't
member of the
realize.
Westchester Sports Hall of Fame too.
Yeah, he was pretty proud of the fact that he participated in the Loucks game. So, I think it's well recognized. And we had somebody write in because my email is on the website. He wrote to me and Dan Furry, because our emails are on the website. And he had won, 25 years ago, he had gotten one of the trophies. And his cat or his dog knocked it over and it splattered in a million pieces. And he was asking if he could replace it 25 years later, just because that was one of the proudest things he had ever done in his sports career. So winning that trophy. So it goes to show you how much it means to people, even 25 years later.
Couple of stories on my end. About 2 years ago, I was at Roosevelt Field Mall on Long Island in Nassau County. And I know that mall pretty well, wall to wall. But there was something that didn't click about a certain store that I needed to go to. So I went over to the concierge. And there's a young man there, the concierge, and I was wearing a Loucks Games jacket. And before I said anything, he pointed his finger at me and he said, "Loucks." He said, and I forget if he went to Hempstead or Amityville High School, one or the other. And he said, "I always wanted to run at Loucks, but my coach wouldn't let me. He always let the girls go, but he was really selective with the guys he sent, and I never got to compete at Loucks." So, and then around the same time, I was in a pizzeria in Manhattan in the lower 80s one night, and guy sitting next to me, I was wearing same Loucks jacket, and the guy sitting next to me turned to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Loucks, I know what that is. White Plains High, right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Well, I live in Suffern," and it turned out he was a relative of somebody who had a long time Loucks connection, so he knew all about it too. So I said to him, I told him what had just happened out at Roosevelt Field Mall a couple of weeks before, and I said, "You can't go anywhere, turn anywhere without hearing about Loucks when you put this jacket on." So that's what it's all about too. I think that's the connection this event has made in our area and beyond throughout all these decades, more than 50 years now. Yeah. Dana Comfort is the treasurer of the Glenn D. Loucks Executive Committee at White Plains High School. The games this year, as they are every year, will be held Mother's Day weekend, and that will begin, I guess, on Thursday, May 6th, if I have my calculations right, and run through Saturday, May 8th. Dana, you talked before, too, about the amount of money that had to be raised, how you go about raising it. You hear that staggering amount, $80,000. When you approach someone, have you ever gotten, well, it's a high school event, and how much money could you possibly need to run that? $5,000 or something like that. So here's $50 for you. Have fun.
We'll take $50. We have a lot of people
who do that, right?
$50, and we'll take it. Those they all count, and even those small ones are helpful to us.
Everything adds up.
Yeah, and it's an easy argument for me because it's these officials, all of whom are certified, run this thing that any college would be proud of, because all the events go on right on time. The track surface is the best you can get. The timing system, best you can get. Everything is there's a wind meter there to make sure that if you get a good time, that it's not wind dated. So it's very professionally done.
Seems like it rains every year, Loucks weekend. I don't have the forecast for that weekend yet, but I don't want to say it's going to rain because there are years when it doesn't, but it seems like, and I remember at Loucks some pretty significant storms, especially on the Saturday when you got to wrap things up through the years and you'd be standing there. Remember about 5 years ago, it was on a Saturday and late in the day, and we had a rainstorm and a pause for about 90 minutes. And somebody up in the booth said, "What time was the official start of the rain?" And I said, "Hold on. My girlfriend just flew to Poland, and she just got off the plane and texted me at the exact second I felt the first drop of rain." So I went back, I checked the text. I said it was 4:14 p.m. So we knew we used that as the exact time of when the rain started that day. And it lasted like exactly 90 minutes, I think, on paper, as it turned out. So
Yeah,
just
a
none of
couple
the
years.
interesting things.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when it rained real hard, one of the Saturdays, the big day of the meet, I noticed that the enthusiasm on the award stand was no less. People were wanted to be on that award stand. If they came in first or to fifth, they all wanted to be there. There was no hesitation. They were glad to be there, no matter what the weather.
Mm-hmm. Dana Comfort, you have become, from what I have seen, a bit of a track aficionado through the years, too. I can stand with you at Loucks on a Friday or a Saturday, and you can look at the board or run down the list and say, wow, he ran this split. She ran this split. Boy, she jumped this high. He jumped that high. It's something that seems to me like it's in your blood now. Track and field is in your blood.
Yeah, it's been quite a change. Very much appreciated. And, I now know that, that's the highest participation sports amongst high schoolers in the country. And I think it's great, that.
And you see how big high school track programs are in our area. It's not like 10 or 12 kids where I went to high school at a small school in Manhattan, the old St. Agnes. We had a pretty good track program, and I kind of regretted I was supposed to be part of the program. I didn't do it. I kind of regretted that. I know, one of my classmates wound up getting a scholarship to Columbia, as it turned out, academically, and for his work on the track team, too. An old classmate brought that up on our high school Facebook page to me a few weeks ago. Wasn't it so-and-so that got that scholarship to Columbia? And I had to correct him. I said, you're kind of in the ballpark, but here's the guy who got it. He said, yeah, you're right. He was a great track star. And I think that classmate had wanted to run track too and didn't do it, and kind of looked back and said, maybe I should have done it. And, we had back at that time in the early 70s, we had the great Dave Waddle, the great American Olympian who would run with a cap on. He inspired me to become a runner back then in high school. And Lasse Viren, the great Finnish long distance runner of the 72 and 76 Olympics as well. Dana Comfort, this year, due to the pandemic, you alluded to it before, we won't have 900 people on one day. We will have some restrictions due to the pandemic. Talk about that. And also, to the event is going to be only for this year, we hope only a Section 1, Section 9 event covering all the counties and schools of the lower 7-county lower Hudson Valley region: Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, and Sullivan.
Yeah. Well, most of the participants in the Loucks games came from this area anyhow. I mean, there are a lot of schools, New Rochelle, and the schools in Westchester are, heavy participants in the Loucks game. So
especially that great New Rochelle girls program run by our good friend Andy Capeyan.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had some great runners come out of New Rochelle. Yeah. A lot of the Loucks records are held by
New Rochelle, boys and girls, both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they'll lack for enthusiasm, and could be back there on the track.
Mm-hmm. I think also, too, with not as many participants this year, will give other athletes who may have been in the background, may come to the games with their teams as an addendum, or just basically like taxi squatters in case somebody gets hurt. It's going to give them a chance to get out there and shine. This is the chance that they've always waited for. Like Terry Collins, the one-time Mets manager, said, I think it was back in 2014, he said, every substitute, and he was a big basketball guy too, he said, every sub in every sport says, Coach, all I need is a chance. Well, this year, some of those kids who've been telling their coaches for a few years, Coach, all I need is a chance, they're going to get their chance at Loucks.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, I feel bad for all those athletes in the last year whose sports got really curtailed by the COVID pandemic. Yeah,
right.
I know for me, sports was everything. So to be able to have, a limited season or no season in some cases had to be tough, because it's, especially in your senior year, that should be.
That's key. They want to see that. The colleges want to see what you do as
a senior. Want to see it, but you want to participate.
Right. That's your last and only chance. I remember when the pandemic hit last year. It was, I think, in Alaska, one of the top girls basketball teams in the state. They had won their championship I think the area championship the last 2 or 3 years in a row, and it was at halftime of their final regular season game where they were way ahead of everybody else in the league and seemed to be a shoo-in for the area championship. Again, they found out, the coaches found out that this was it. There would be no postseason. The coaches walked into the locker room and told the girls, he said, ladies, I hate to tell you this, but from what we just found out, this will be the last and final half of your high school basketball career. We will not have a postseason. Let's make the most of it. And they did. They turned a pretty good halftime lead into a pretty big rout in the end. And I guess that's the way to go out.
Yeah. So this will be great to restart this, and I'm sure we'll have a good meet. And I think
you talked too about how those colleges need to see what kids do as seniors, and the kids want to participate for their own well-being up here mentally, knowing they did what they did as seniors and athletically too. I've spoken to coaches and athletic directors at all levels and said to them, how can you accurately judge what a kid can do since there was no 2020 spring sports season, no Loucks, for example, no baseball, and this year was a stunted year all the way around athletically, high school-wise in this area. And I've had a couple of them say, well, you have tapes from their junior year and what they did up to that, et cetera. And I know it's only just a little information from senior year, but that's all we can go by. That's all we can do. And that's the best we can do in a situation like this. Can we project on people, pro or con? Yeah, we could, but we could only use the information that we have. And I think you'll agree it's great that we're going to have Loucks out there again for those college programs and coaches and evaluators to see exactly what every one of these kids does and what they can do.
Yeah, it's been great. And I have to say, the enthusiasm from, the 80, 90 people that donate is still, they're so happy that we're going to have the games running again. So there's a lot of support out there for us. It's been great.
80, 90 donors, that's a lot. It really is for a high school event like this, but it is a big regional event. That's a lot of people and companies and businesses that participate. And I know the Loucks committee is very appreciative of that.
Yeah, great.
Dana Comfort, for anyone who would like to be part of the Loucks games in any way, shape, or form, especially if they'd like to donate a few bucks or maybe find out how their business company can get involved, how they can get involved personally, what should they do? Your contact information, your phone number, email, website.
Glad you asked that. Yeah. Go to the loucksgames.org and see our website, and on the face page of the website, there's a place to donate. You can use PayPal, you can use a credit card. It's very, very easy to do, and we appreciate any support you could give us.
And that is Loucks, Loucks games.org, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, theloucksgames.org. Yeah.
The Loucks, right. I forgot about theloucksgames.org. When I go online, sometimes I forget to put in the, and I wonder why it doesn't come up. And wait a second, you forgot the THE. So type in the THE, it'll come up. There you go. All right.
So thank you so much for the time today, John.
Dana, thank you. Always a pleasure. Dana Comfort, the treasurer of the Glenn D. Loucks Track and Field Executive Committee at White Plains High School. 53rd annual meet will be held this year at White Plains High, and that'll be Thursday, May 6th through Saturday, May 8th on Mother's Day weekend. I hear it's going to be a real sunny forecast that weekend, right, Dana?
Guaranteed.
Yeah, we're wishing and hoping for that, no doubt about that. Dana Comfort, thank you for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio. All the best to you.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dana. Stay safe. Here on Westchester Talk Radio, the Sports Report, I'm John Marino, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Entergy, the Indian Point Energy Center, supporting our communities through the spring of 2021. Also by Wartburg Healthcare and Rehabilitation in Mount Vernon, by Park Sterling Realty in Bronxville, and by Michael Labriola, Landscape Design and Construction in Armonk. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County talk radio programming on our YouTube channel. That is Sharc Creative YouTube.